Hi, my name is Michael Johnson. I'm a ballroom dance professional, a life coach, and a peak performance expert. I'm part of a group of motivated people who are dedicated to attaining emotional mastery and unlocking our full potential. We've realized life is a dance. The ups and downs can spin you out of your mind, but it's time to take back control. It's time to become a lifer. We don't believe others are responsible for how we feel. In fact, we don't believe anyone can make us feel anything. We are a new breed of overachievers. Emotional mastery is our journey, and unlocking our full potential is the key. Welcome to the journey. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life. What's up, everybody? Michael Johnson here with the Magic for Life podcast, and I'm so glad you joined me today because we have a special guest joining us, Mr. Luca Baricchi. Do you say Baricchi or Baricchi?
You can say both. I'm used to both.
How do you say it?
In Italy it's Baricchi, in English or American version is Baricchi, so
Okay.
I reply to both.
Okay.
Both are good for me.
Awesome. Well, we're so excited that you came to join us today, and we are so privileged to have him because he is a former two-time world standard champion. So I know some of you aren't ballroom dancers, but some of you are, so you know what that means. That means he did the 5 standard dances: waltz, tango, Viennese, foxtrot, and quickstep, and he was the world champion. In fact, I was telling him yesterday when I was chatting with him that he was my world champion. During my era of competing as a professional, he was on top, and we aspired to be as great as you were and are. And anyway, so thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
We love to talk about emotions, and we love to talk about mindset on the podcast, and to be able to help people take their life to the next level in whatever thing it is that they do. And you started dancing at a young age, right?
9 years old.
9 years old. And what got you started?
My parents are dance teachers, so it was quite easy to get involved into the dancing. At the beginning, I was not interested actually in dancing itself, and then I went to some event. I don't remember, a show or some competitions, and I saw this blonde girl who was dancing, and then I asked my father if I can dance with this girl. I will start, because of course they wanted me to start, right?
Right.
So that's how I started, and we started to dance together for a month or two, and then she gave up because of course we were children, and I guess she had to go to school and she had no time. But then I had started, so then I just kind of continued.
Nice. And so you were around the studio. Did they do other forms of dance or just ballroom at that?
No, they were doing ballroom, Latin, mainly ballroom and Latin.
I see.
And then of course social dance, for public and so on, but mainly ballroom and Latin. Yeah.
And so did you do both growing up?
Yeah.
Both styles?
Both. And actually it was better in Latin for many years.
Okay.
Before then I focused more in the ballroom, due to the fact that my partner, I changed 14 partners during my
Oh my gosh.
dance career. Yeah, I mean, of course, many of them we
Right.
changed the earlier times. Again, for high changes, as you grow, or school engagements and so on. So, but 14 partners. So my last Italian partner never did Latin actually. So it was difficult to. We tried, but it was difficult. So the full ballroom naturally became the main. But actually, I enjoy very much the Latin, and I think that's probably why my ballroom was possibly different, because there was some greater freedom.
From doing both and doing Latin, as you said, better, it seems a far cry to ending up the world standard champion. So how did that happen? How did you switch to ballroom?
Yeah, mainly for that reason. Maybe for this partner that was had no experience in Latin.
Right.
I don't want to say she couldn't dance. I think she could dance a little bit of Latin, but really no experience in Latin.
Yeah.
So we tried, but very difficult. And especially, the lead is very important in Latin.
Right.
Right. I mean, if you're dancing with somebody with no experience, it's very difficult. So naturally, we opted for ballroom. Then, of course, I always enjoyed both. It was not like I didn't like ballroom. So then I continued like that.
And never went back.
Never went back to Latin. So
wow.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talk about often is being able to do whatever it takes to attain the thing that you love and that you go after. And one of the things that stood out to me in chatting with you is that there was a period of time where you spent 2 weeks training in England and then 2 weeks training at home and going back and forth.
Yes.
How did you make that decision to do that?
At that time, England was the center, right? I mean, all the teachers, all the knowledge was there.
Right.
All the best knowledge was there. So it was clear that if I wanted to go further, I had to get higher knowledge. And luckily, Italy to England is not so far. It's a couple of hour flight, so it's not a big deal. And so it was easy, therefore, to travel forward and backward. So when I say easy, it was not spending time in England was easy. Going back to Italy, and because England really at that time had an amazing atmosphere,
right?
And all the top couples would meet there, or all the dreamers,
right.
all the young dancers with dreams met there, and then there was a great energy, sharing this energy at practice, and the best teachers were there, and it was really great,
Yeah.
And I was lucky to be of that generation, because I believe that was probably the best time,
yeah,
of that community. And so when I was in London, it was actually very nice, because super inspired, and getting new information and going to the studio to practice was fantastic. The difficulty was going back to Italy, and then of course going back into teaching, because of course I started to teach at a very young age,
right.
And then try to practice, but the environment is different. You don't have the atmosphere, that was there, of course. So you're trying to practice, but you're on your own, and then you are trying to create some kind of atmosphere, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
Right. Then so you're in Italy, but then you're waiting to get back into London, 2 weeks later, kind of thing, So there was the feeling at that time.
Yeah. And were you dancing professional at that point, or still amateur?
Amateur.
Wow. So that's a big commitment, though, and in terms of financially.
It was. But at that time, Italy, for me, was easy because, of course, I had a backup from family too, if necessary. But, there were basically 3 very strong couples from Italy at that time in the amateurs, and the professional level was very low. So actually, we were the amateurs, but in fact, we were the professional.
Right.
Because that was when Italy was kind of rising. And therefore, the 3 of us were basically doing a professional life, right, as amateurs.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Which of course gave us the opportunity then to be successful, although we were not born in England.
Sure.
Because we had the possibility of course, making the financial profits necessary to then spend
right.
traveling to London, but also the fact that we were teaching.
Yeah.
Right, allowed us to try and experiment the information that we were trying to do on our poor students. I say they were poor students at the time, because I for sure didn't quite know what I was trying to do, right?
Right.
Trying to work it out. And so we were basically living a professional life as amateurs.
Wow.
Which, for example, was much easier than, for example, for the English amateurs, because the English amateurs were not allowed to teach.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Right.
So the amateurs had to have a normal job.
Yeah.
They were amateurs, right? So they did the actual amateur way of doing things. So they had a job, and then they danced in the evening.
Right.
We were like dancing all day long so that also allowed us to.
Wow. And that's just because the regulation in Italy wasn't the same.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Interesting.
So it was allowed. It was okay for amateurs to.
At that
teach.
point, did you know it was going to be your career? Had you already decided at that point that you were going to do it for the rest of your life?
Actually, at that point, I got to a certain level. I was kind of in the semi-final of the amateurs, and I was, I think, semi-final in under 21. I was around there, and I kind of got stuck. I was there for 3 years, and not just the result, because the result can be stuck for some reason at some points, but I also felt I was not developing. So I felt I kind of got to a certain point, and then I felt I'm not really developing. I was spending 2 weeks in London, 2 weeks in Italy, but when I was in Italy, as I said, no inspiration. I had to also work hard to recreate the finances for the next trip, and I felt I was not efficient in my way of growing.
Yeah.
And but I was making very good money, so I thought, And I was looking at the top dancers, and I thought, I'm never going to be like that. These guys are like gods of dance.
Right.
I'm just average,
Yeah.
good amateur dancer, but nothing special. So I thought, I'm never going to be like them. My life is quite good now. I have a good life. I can teach. I can do my things. Financially, I can do what I want. So I thought, I'm going to try it for 1 year, right? And move to London and see what happens with me being 100%
Sure.
dedicated just to dance. If after 1 year I still don't feel that I'm evolving, I will stop, right? And this, I was very young. I was 19 or 20 at the time, so I was very young.
Yeah.
Then after that, I moved to London, so I tried. I said to my parents, okay, I'm going to go to London. Where I can't manage my finances, I'll try my best. If I cannot, could you help me? So, of course, they were happy to do so.
Nice.
And they understood that,
sure.
this was maybe possibly my career and I could be really successful in it. Maybe they saw something in me that I had not seen yet, right? And then, so I moved to London when I just made the final in the under-21 in Blackpool.
Right.
Yeah. And this is in May, by the following January, I turned professional, so very young, turned professional, moved to London, turned professional, changed partner, and within 6 months, or 7 months, from May to January, I was in the semi-final of the Pro.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a big step.
That's huge, yeah.
And I found myself dancing next to these people that I consider gods. Right? So then I thought, maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
Now there was a possibility.
Maybe there's a possibility, yes. And so the year went by, and of course I felt a huge development.
Right.
And then, so I continued. And then by the following January, I was in the final.
Wow.
Of the Pro.
Wow.
Yeah. So in about 1.5 years, I went from being under-21 finalist to finalist of the Pro.
So that's a really fast ascension.
Really fast.
Yeah. Things must have been working out pretty good for you.
It was good.
Your education was going quick.
My education was going quick. I was not distracted.
Yeah.
I had a very clear direction. My teacher was extremely good. Very thankful to him. His name was Hans Latzo. And the first time he met me, he, as I shared with you yesterday, he said to me, I can help you, but you have to take lessons only with me until I tell you that you're ready.
Right.
And coming from my parents being my teachers, and therefore having a full trust on the teacher wanting the well-being for me, I just trusted him. I didn't know this teacher. I knew who he was, but I didn't know him personally. But I trusted him, and that I guess was one of the key factors. Yeah. Because then my direction was very clear. Yeah. Of how to develop, and that's why the evolution was then
made sense.
Very fast. After that, teacher became 3 because he suggested to me then to go to 2 more teachers, which were Richard Glebe and Michael Barr, and of course still Hans. And the team of the 3 kind of really worked for me. And and I just had a clear mind of where I was going and how I was developing. And I believe that was key to the fast growth.
At what point did you realize that you had a shot to win the World Championships? Did you get it right away, or were you just trying to get better?
Winning competition or the result was always for me a secondary factor.
I see.
Yeah, because I realized very early in my time that there are external factors that can affect that. One can be other dancers that maybe are better than me in my generation, and therefore I cannot win. Right. And my generation was super strong. Right. There were a lot of great dancers, so who knows,
Right.
How the other couples are going to develop, right? You don't know. And then of course there's another factor which can be if the general dance society likes you or doesn't like you, right? Because then you are not You are not running a race,
Right.
where if you win, you win. Here there's also some influences coming from outside, from the society, that then decides if who is the best couple.
Right.
And therefore these two factors were, of course, made me realize that, okay, I don't actually have any power on am I going to win or am I not going to win. So I try to always avoid bringing my attention to the result. But my motivation was becoming the greatest I could.
Sure.
Right? So how good can I become? How can I get to really maximize my potential? So that was my motivation. And I believe that was also another thing that kept me clear. Because then I was not distracted. Now I'm talking to a lot of the couples that I'm also influencing in some way, and often they are concerned about the opinion of external people, and that can confuse their path, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was simple. I kept it simple. I'm going to try and become the greatest I can. Later on, I realized that maybe I can become the greatest ever. So my goal moved from the greatest I can to realize that, okay, maybe I can be, let's push it a little further, right?
Yeah.
And let's become the greatest ever, right? And then I trusted a few people that I was working with. So I kept it as simple as I could.
Yeah.
Mentally as simple as I could.
Yeah. You had mentioned that your parents were willing to support you and help you out. And while I know a lot of people would be curious about that, I know that regardless of the thing that our audience is doing, because it might be business or it might be sports or dance, sometimes, and I find this a lot, sometimes the parents don't support them in what they're doing, or sometimes their spouse doesn't support them in what they're doing. How would you suggest that they go about chasing after something that was their dream and that they were believing that they could do well when they don't have the support?
I think at the end you have to follow what is your instinct. You have to feel it. You have to sense it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I mean, life. We can build a fake security around us, but actually, life can change in a second, and some of us have experienced that, very personally. So. I think rather than worry about the what if it doesn't work, I think it's about what if it does work, right?
Yeah.
So you should follow your dream and you should go for what you believe is you feel you have inside to do, regardless of who is supporting you and who is not supporting you.
Yeah. Seems like it could be hard, these days. And I think I see it a lot in the dance industry as well, as everybody's so worried about the politics and who is supporting and who isn't supporting. And it seems to me that it's the same in sports as well. You've got to focus, like you said, on being the best you can possibly be.
Yes.
And let the other stuff work itself out. And sounds like that was sort of your idea and your concept as you were growing up. Do you think you got that from somebody in particular? Did somebody teach that to you? Did it just make sense to you?
It just made sense to me because I like to have control,
right,
to the limit that life allows you to have control to, right?
Yeah.
As we just said. But I like to do what I can control, right? And I can control how great I become.
Sure.
I cannot control how other people perceive me.
Right.
How great I am, but I can just do my best and develop myself as far as I can develop. Right?
Yeah.
And go and search and study, and where I have questions, go and find the answers, and not be concerned about what other people think of me.
Right.
Because what other people think of me, it's can be often be affected by other matters that have nothing to do with me,
right,
but with them. So that for me was clear quite early on.
Right.
So
a lot of our audience in our Magic for Life tribe, we call them lifers because they're constantly in a place of improvement and trying to take their life to that next level. But I think all of us have experienced something similar. You were talking earlier about feeling like you're stuck, and you know that there's maybe something more that you have to give, but you feel a little bit stuck in the place or the mode or the growth that you're having. And for so many people, it's hard to get out of that place, out of that stuck place. What do you think were the contributing factors to allow you to be able to do that, to make that transition and get out of being stuck?
Changing the environment. The environment was not right, yeah? Or
Right.
he did his course, you know, I did my evolution in that environment.
Right.
And then I had to be in a different environment to go further.
I see.
Yeah, that's what I felt. I was missing inspiration. I was not, you know, I was in Italy. I mean, everything, as I mentioned earlier, was great, you know.
Right.
But I could have stopped there, you know, that could have been enough.
Yeah.
Right. But I realized that if I wanted to go further, the environment was not the environment that was going to help me do so.
Yeah.
So then you have to not be afraid to change and try it.
That's the scary part, right? For most people is not being being afraid to make that move or to make that change.
For me, it was never, because the only thing that is constant in life is change, right? We are in constant evolution. So I think the problem is when we try to hold on to something. That's when the problem starts, right?
Right.
So we have to accept that life is in constant evolution, and we should not be afraid to change. And then if it doesn't work, I change again. I mean, it's not a big deal.
Sure.
Right. That was my approach, you know. So I try it. It doesn't work. I change it again, and I try something else. And I don't give up on changing until I find the way that works.
Right. Makes sense. You know, you clearly, in all of my meetings with you and being able to learn about you and know you in person, you know, I followed you for years on TV, you know, watching from afar or watching you at Blackpool, and now getting to know you. It's really great to be able to meet the person behind the soul of what I saw on the floor. And one of the things that I remember so clearly of watching you dance in your day was how much passion and heart you brought to the floor every time you stepped on the floor. I find that that's what people come to me often for when they're asking questions to Magic for Life, or when they're talking to us about how to get to that next level and to that peak. They talk to us about loving the thing they do, and it's like they know they love it, but it doesn't always come out.
Sure.
Why were you able to do that? Why were you able to show that love on the floor and be able to be so passionate about what it is that you do?
It's a good question. I was a very shy person.
Really? Wow.
Believe it or not. I used to be very shy. And therefore, for me, my approach every time I walked on the floor, I didn't show anything to anybody. I was not good at showing, because it would be embarrassing for me to do that. And I felt uncomfortable. So I allowed them to watch. Right? So I did my thing, I got into my thing, I got into my way of doing things, and I just allowed them, if they wished to do so, to join me in that. And I think that's why people could connect to maybe what I was doing, and as you said, you know, there was emotion and so on, but I wasn't trying to share those emotions. I was happy if people wanted to come in and share them with me, but it was more of it was my experience. It was much more of a selfish satisfaction, you know, satisfying myself and getting fulfillment out of that, rather than an external one of. Generally, that was, again, we go back to what we said earlier. Generally, I kind of not allowed, as much as I could, external factors to influence me. So I got on with what I loved, with what I believed in, and I just did that. And then allowed people to like it or not like it, of course. And that was people's choice. But it seems to be that people generally loved it.
you know, everybody goes on their own journey, and we all have our trials and tribulations, and it's all towards gaining and heading towards that end goal. And you were able to attain those 2 world championships. But oftentimes, what I find with masters at their craft is that, first of all, they don't consider themselves masters. Second of all, they all tell me that there was something else that they learned greater than getting the title.
Sure.
What was it for you?
I think we continue to learn. What I've learned is that we never finish learning. That's the biggest lesson.
Yeah.
Right? And there's always more. The World Championship is just, I'm not identifying myself in that. Yeah, that's just something that happened through my career, and this is something that actually somebody else gave me.
Yeah.
Right? Because the World Championship is the organization, and they decided I am the champion, but I don't identify myself in that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So for me now, for example, I'm always motivated by pushing myself to be better than what I am.
Yeah.
Right. And I analyze myself. I check where I can be better.
Mm-hmm.
If something happens, I always ask myself, what could have I done differently in any circumstance? And that's the way I can grow and learn. Right. If I blame somebody else, or I won World Championship, I lost World Championship, you know, I made my mistakes in my life, like everybody does. The important thing is just learning.
Right.
Constantly learning from this. So now as a teacher, and not just as a teacher, but as, let's say, the CEO, of our institutes, the goal is to build an environment similar. Of course, we try to do better, because
Sure.
we are now in 2020. We are not in 1990s, but that inspires. Because I do believe that I was very privileged, because I was in the right environment. It was not just about me, but I was focused on me, but then the environment had that positive energy that allowed me to be me. And I think this is very important.
Yeah.
And now that's the next step. The next step is to really build that environment.
Sure.
For others to enjoy, and I will enjoy the process too.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the process too when I'm doing it. So.
You know, there's a lot of great dancers, and because of people like you and a lot of dancers passing on information, there's a lot of people coming up the ranks that are working hard, and they're following the rules, and they're doing what they're supposed to, but they're not seeing the results. What would be your advice to those people that are putting in the time and they're working hard, but they're not seeing the results? What do you think they should do to?
Don't conform.
Okay.
I feel that generally when people want to be successful, they tend to look at the environment where they want to be successful, and then they try to conform to that environment. They do what they think is necessary to be successful, rather than doing what they truly believe in.
Yeah.
I mean, if we are just talking about dancing world, it is an artistic environment. Right? So one of the things that I often ask is, how can an artist be afraid to express himself or herself? Right? How can the dancer be afraid to move?
Right.
And I see this a lot now, because there's a great tendency on wanting to conform, wanting to be liked. For me, another thing that was very clear quite early in my time was, and I think I'm quite a clear example of that, actually, I'm a living example of it, is that I'm not actually really fitting into any environment, into any society, specific dance society. I'm doing my own thing. but nobody can take away the greatness or what
Right.
I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah? Because I put my attention on becoming great.
Right.
Yeah? Or as great as I could.
Right.
So I say to also these young dancers that may be stuck and they want to try their best and they're working very hard but not breaking through that. Remember that life hopefully is a long life, and then it's not about just winning the competition, but it's about what you're producing, because people will want to learn from you and you want to know what your secrets are or what is your approach is if you produce something special. It doesn't matter if you win or not.
Right.
I don't think my students come to me because I'm a world champion or because I won 2 times, because there are people that won 9 times and now we have a new world champion that has won 10 times.
Right.
I only won twice.
Right.
But that's not really the way to measure the value. Yeah, and I don't believe that's how people measure the value of it.
Yeah.
When you move, and then what people feel when you move is what matters.
Yeah.
And so to these dancers, I'm just saying, don't be afraid to be individual. Go for your uniqueness, go for what you like, and enjoy the process, because at least you can enjoy the process. Let's say you're successful or not successful, but you have enjoyed the process.
Right. Easier not to regret it in the end if you've enjoyed the whole journey.
Exactly, right? And you've done it your way, and then you can just turn around and blame yourself if you haven't made it, you know, or not blame, but you can say, okay, I've tried my best, right? That's
right.
it. That's what I did. And the thing is, enjoy the process, because I won competition that I didn't enjoy, which I didn't feel I produced anything particularly special.
Right.
And to me, winning those competitions meant nothing.
Right.
Other competitions that didn't have the result that maybe I was expecting or people thought I should get, but I really enjoyed fully the experience, and those are the fulfilling times.
Right. So, yeah. Makes sense. A couple random questions. How important for dancers do you think is their diet, like what they eat? Because I remember at probably not so great times in my dancing career that I'd be like eating a hamburger right before I went on to dance. I look back at that and I think, gosh, what the heck was I doing?
That's not a very good idea, right? It's not a good idea. I think it is important, and it is even more so important now, because the athletic value of the dancer has gone higher.
Yeah.
Therefore, we are what we eat. No, this is a famous quote, no? Not my quote. And therefore, it is important that to have an understanding of what to eat, when to eat it, and so that the body is ready when it's time to perform.
Yeah,
for sure.
When you were practicing and working hard during your run of your dancing, did you feel like you were putting in more hours or more time, or was it just about quality and efficiency of the time you put in? Like, did you dance all day long, or were you just doing smaller sets? What did you do?
I felt I did what I needed to do. So depending from partner to partner also, in my 14 partners, I had partners that it felt very easy to dance with, and now, because of the new studies, I understand why. And other partners that always felt very difficult.
Right.
Yeah. The partner with whom I was most famous, actually, it was always very difficult for us to dance together. Now I know why. At that time, I didn't know why.
Sure.
So that actually required a lot of practice.
Right.
But because I felt it was necessary just to find a way to make 2 very different individuals manage to work together and not against each other.
Yeah.
So I think it depends. You have to listen. It's organic. You have to feel it.
Sure.
There's no point if you're tired and you don't feel like it, you have no inspiration, there's no point staying in the studio for 5 hours, which will end up into an argument, it will end up into, anyway, negative things. So go out, go in a park, you get some energy from nature, and then come back the next day.
Yeah.
Right? The day that you feel you're in it and you're inspired, and then, of course, if it's possible, then stay and prolong that as much as you can.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's very organic. I don't think there's a formula that is
Earlier, you mentioned we all make mistakes. I think that's like the story of our life as humans, right? We all make mistakes, and we all do things that we wish we didn't do, and then afterwards, it sometimes feels a lot like the people in our circle and the people around us are trying to hold us to the mistakes that we made instead of allowing us to grow past that.
Mm-hmm.
What's your advice to our audience about being able to get past mistakes that we've made and get other people past it? Because I feel like in some instances it's almost easier to deal with it ourselves, but then the surrounding people tend to hold us into place. So how do you get over that? How do you get past that?
You have always good questions. I think first of all you have to understand why you made a mistake. Right? Because when you did whatever you did, it was obviously not done with the intention of making a mistake, but you believe in what you were doing at the time.
Yeah.
And for me, and I'm happy to share that, if I look back at my life, one of the mistakes that I made was maybe not to be honest with myself very early in my career about my private life.
Right.
And I chose maybe to proceed a very successful professional life at the cost of my private life.
Sure.
And I knew it. At times when I stopped listening to myself, it was clear. But then you're busy evolving yourself and developing yourself in your career that you can put that to the side.
Yeah.
The problem is that never goes away. It always kind of reappears, right? It always comes back. And but life is life, and then you make choices, and maybe when you make the choices, it's not the best time to make them, or how you make them then is not, because you no longer are clear, right? Because you've been bottling these dynamics for a long time, and then when they explode, then they come out the wrong way.
Right.
All I can do about it is learn from those mistakes, right? Learn from that and not repeat them.
Yeah.
Right? I understand that I must listen to myself and not compromise that.
Yeah.
Right? And how do I change people's opinion about it? That I cannot do. I'm not interested in that.
Right.
It's up to them to let go of such dynamics, you know, and I guess some people like to hold on to them because it makes them feel good.
Yeah.
But that, again, my approach is still the same that I had when I was a competitor. I'm not concerned so much about what people think.
Right.
Because I know the truth.
Right.
I know what I experienced.
Sure.
And what I can do is learn from those experiences as much as I can and grow. And for sure I've grown. You know, I'm not what... There are people that still have a problem with me because when I was 20 years old, you know, maybe something happened. And they said, let it go, you know, because now I'm 50 and I'm 51 this year. Maybe I'm an evolved person. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, change is constant, so we grow. Right? But then if you wish to hold on to that thought because it makes you feel good, okay, that's your choice. I cannot allow this thought to affect me or shout me. Yeah?
Sure.
So, and I believe generally people should not be afraid to make mistakes.
Right.
Because that's actually the only way we really learn, right, in life. Yeah? So, so important thing is to learn, I guess, and not try purposely to hurt other people, which I never did.
Right, of course. Well, and most of the time that's the case, right? Most people aren't intending to hurt other people with the things that they choose poorly. And sometimes you don't even know it was a poor choice.
You don't.
During the time, until
you think is the right one.
Yeah, you think you're going the right direction, doing the right thing. You know, one of the things in our tribe's motto is that we are response-able. Not just responsible, but response-able. And that means that we can choose how we feel, and we choose how we are going to feel, how we're going to react to certain situations. And it sounds a lot like what you're describing in terms of, you can't change how they feel about the situation, because that's up to them. And we believe that at Majic for Life. And it's something I've taught for years. And I love the idea of just being able to pass on this concept of, like, you are response able. You can choose how you're going to respond. So start practicing that, because otherwise you end up making mistakes because you didn't practice. And all of a sudden, in the most important times, you responded in a way that you didn't want to respond. And then you spend ages trying to recover from it because you didn't practice, you didn't get better at it.
Yes.
You are a pretty fascinating man. I have enjoyed my time getting to know you, and I look forward to getting to know you better. But I want to ask you, before we finish up, about any of your projects. I know you have an institute that you're building, and you are teaching, and you're traveling, and you're doing a lot of really cool things for the art of dance. And so what can you share with us about it? I mean, it's up to you, but I know you're doing a lot of really great things. So what would you like to share with us about what you're up to these days?
Yeah, we're developing through the years and through the whole experiences of life, of dancing, or the studying, the desire to continue to grow and evolve. And we have developed a very interesting method, which is tailoring the information to each student in details, so that the principle doesn't change, but how the principle is shared to the student. Changes, the method of sharing that principle changes according to the perception of the student. Of course, this is unbelievable, because it allows dancers that have been trying to move in a certain way for so many years. You change a few perceptions of them, and you bring them to their own true perceptions, and suddenly they are able to do incredible things. So it's very empowering. And we're putting our attention very much into that now, and that's what the Institute is all about, is to, of course, develop principles as clearly and as detailed as possible, and make them as simple, because the closer you go to the truth, the more simple everything becomes. And then seeing how those simple principles can relate to that specific person in, again, the most simple way for the person to understand. And no matter if this person is a professional, is an amateur, is a dancer that has danced for 1 year, or 10 years, or 20 years, or 30 years, it doesn't matter, because instinctive perception is there. That's how we are sensing ourselves. So that for us is what we're developing with the Institute. That's why, and we feel the community is necessary, to build the community. So we are certifying teachers, we are certifying professionals, we are certifying amateurs, to create a community that speaks a similar language, where everybody is allowed to be individuals,
right?
And where everybody is allowed to express themselves in the way they wish.
Sure.
And this, of course, for now, this is focused on the dancing. It can be related to any kind of movement, and that's why the institute is Baricchi Institute of Movement,
right,
and Art,
right?
Because it's about movement.
Sure.
It's not about steps. It's about the perception of movement, and how artistic we can be with that, right? With the movement, what we can express with it. So that's the next step. That's the next stage. All we are doing is based around that. So.
Cool. Is there a website that anybody could go to see or learn more about it, or not yet?
There is a website where there is a simple explanation of it.
Sure.
We are also into the process of evolving more material. I mean, there's already a lot of educational material that is not online, but it can be studied, on courses and this kind of thing. But the website is there, and it's the baricchiinstituteofmovement.com. Great. That's available to people to see. Generally, if you Google just my name, a lot of things come up.
Okay.
And now we are very excited because we're bringing this to the US.
Nice.
So we're not just focusing on Asia. Asia is continuing, of course, it's growing.
Right.
But now we're bringing it into the US, which is very exciting, and we feel that the mentality in the US also fits very much with our approach, because it is about individuality, it's about empowering humans to achieve the maximum of their abilities.
Cool.
So yeah, we're extremely excited about it.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait to learn more. Before we finish up, though, I wanted to ask you one question. We talk a lot about emotions, and the podcast has a lot of information about managing and learning how to manage, control, and execute your emotions. So, just for fun, what do you do when you want to feel happy? What kind of things do you do?
I think we start from an approach that
just even personally though, like
personally,
yeah, like do you feel like, do you like to go on hikes or even ride a bike, or is it dance still? Is it a foxtrot? Is it a particular song? What kind of things do you do to help yourself get into that state of happiness?
letting go.
Someday I'm gonna get the other answer that you thought in there, because that looks intriguing, but we'll save it for another time.
Letting go. But letting go is I was looking for this most simple way to express the principle, and letting go.
Nice. I like it.
I think people can be happy if they just let go.
Yeah.
Of everything else that doesn't make them happy.
Right. I love it. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for letting us interview you, and we are so privileged to have you on our show. So
Thank you very much, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey lifers, don't forget to get your free copy of the Every Minute book. You can find it at everyminutebook.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.